Hello, and welcome to this video, the Five Nights at Freddy movie explained by and for parents, and not Five Nights at Freddy fans. I watched the Five Nights at Freddy movie with almost zero knowledge of the video game. I only watched the movie because my daughter is a fan of the video game series and wanted me to watch it with her. So, if you have next to zero knowledge of the game but watched the movie and want to know what your kids or friends were going nuts about, this video is for you. Spoilers! I am going to spoil the whole movie here. I did not watch any videos about the movie at all, and while I am a bit of a fan now, I like the universe, I think the animatronics are super cute, I wouldn't put myself in the same league with the online fandom. So this video is for people like me who came into this universe through the movie with no game knowledge. Now, I recommend watching the movie and then coming back to this video if you haven't seen the movie. But if you want to watch the video first and be spoiled, that's all up to you. So going in, the only thing I knew about Five Nights at Freddy was it was a video game series, there were killer animatronics, and the killer animatronics kind of reminded me of Chuck E. Cheese. I asked my daughter what the story behind all of this was, and she said, the animatronics are possessed by dead kids because the bad guy murdered them and hid the bodies inside the animatronics, and so no one ever found them. And that's all you really need to know going in. But after I watched the movie, I was curious enough to look for a video to explain to me more about the actual game. This made me go down a crazy rabbit hole. So the truth is, Five Nights at Freddy, or FNAF, as fans call it, has no complete, canonically accurate timeline, characters, or stories. There are canonical people, canonical dates, and canonical events, and then there is a whole lot of theory. Trying to piece together FNAF lore is like putting together a puzzle with pieces missing and pieces added, and then when you connect them somewhere, now nothing else connects to that piece you just put in, and every time a new game in the series comes out, or a book in the series comes out, or someone looks into the source code, or the creator has an interview, and then the guy from fan theory, game theory starts talking, then they have to retcon all the theories. So fine, whatever, I gave up. But in my search to learn the truth, I learned a lot about the lore. And then I rewatched the movie, which the majority of fans seemed to like, by the way. I rewatched the movie for some background noise while I was cleaning, and then I sat down to write this video because I realized, I get it now. I can see so many things in the movie that must have had the fans going nuts when they saw it. So again, this video is not for the fans. Y'all know what you saw, and I'm sure you caught a ton of things that I didn't get. This video is for the non-FNAF fans, the everyday people like me who were like, yeah, okay, this looks interesting enough, and watched the movie with zero background. Anyway, here are some of the basics. This first scene is a security guard who is trying to escape from the animatronics through a vent. The animatronics are trying to get into the security room by knocking down the closed door. This is the very bare bones of the game. The player is, at least in the first two games, a security guard trying to stay alive through the night when the animatronics come alive and try to kill you for various reasons depending on the game. And in the game, the player has to watch the security screens to try to avoid them. In the first game in particular, the voicemail left by the day security guard, I guess, gives the player information that tells the player that if the animatronics catch you, they will try to put you in an animatronic suit. Hence this scene here with the saw-like torture device coming at the guy's face. This next 8-bit sequence for the title with the 8-bit bunny and the 8-bit kids, this whole opening sequence explains not just the movie, but also the lore of the game. Yes, Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria was a place partially inspired by Chuck E. Cheese. The main bad guy from the game dressed up in one of those animatronic suits, Spring Bonnie in particular, and lured children at the pizzeria away in order to murder them. 5 in total. Well, he killed more than 5 children all told in the game, but without getting too complicated, for the purposes of the movie, there are 5 kids. If you notice this guy's name, Scott, in the credits over and over, that is the creator of the game. Josh Hutcherson plays the character Mike. Now, 2 things. In FNAF 1, the player's name is Mike Schmidt. The second thing is the 6 a.m. wake-up call. In the game, you have to survive from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. That 6 a.m. rollover on the clock means you beat that level. Or that night. Okay, so fans went into this movie knowing, or at least being pretty sure, that Matthew Lillard is playing a guy named William Afton, even though his nameplate says Steve Raglan, and even though the IMDb page just says Steve Raglan. But everyone in the wiki says this is William Afton. So why does it say Steve Raglan? William Afton is the main bad guy in FNAF. Yes, the guy in the spring Bonnie suit that killed the 5 children in the opening sequence. In the game, he also goes by different names in order to hide, commit more crimes, stuff like that. William Afton is the owner, or at least partial owner, of Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, and the creator of at least some of the animatronics. The game lore is more complicated than that, but you don't need to know that for movie purposes. In the game, he is sometimes depicted as an 8-bit purple figure and referred to by fans as the Purple Guy. Does Mike's family, the babysitter, the aunt, and the dreams have anything to do with the FNAF game lore? I'll save answering about the family until later. I think it will make more sense if I wait until later, the end of the movie, to explain. The short answer is sort of, maybe, but not really right now. Technically, most people believe that FNAF 4 was a dream sequence by a dying child in a coma. Does this whole speech about images have anything to do with FNAF game lore? I have no idea. Nothing is really coming to mind, but it does have to do with the end of the movie, so let's move on. Mike goes to work the first night, and we see Matthew Lillard on the phone explaining things. This parallel who fans call Phone Guy. Phone Guy is the voice of a former security guard or guards before Mike. By the way, on the 4th night in the FNAF 1 game, I'm pretty sure the player hears the guy die on the phone, which, hey, the security guard in the opening sequence died, so that fits with FNAF 1. Anyway, Phone Guy in the game is voiced by Scott, the creator. Lillard tells Mike that the power is iffy. Running out of power is a big thing in FNAF gameplay. Not in all games, but several and most, actually. Power is just a really big thing in general. If you watch this scene and thought, hey, close the door, this place is creepy, then you are like me. But I guess if Mike isn't scared, then why would he close the door? Remember what I said, in FNAF 1, closing the door takes power. Did I say that? In FNAF 1, closing the door drains your power, and you need to conserve power in the game. So you really can only close the door when you know you're in danger. Then Mike watches the Freddy's security training video. A lot of this is feeding the audience some of the background lore of FNAF, which a player would normally piece together from in-game articles, voice messages, and other stuff. In FNAF 3, the phone guy tells the player that they found some old vintage employee training tapes. So this is probably also a nod to that. Balloon Boys and animatronics in some of the games, you can forget about them. I am not getting into the 5 Dead Kids and Garrett until the end of this video. This guy is a YouTuber called Matt Pat who does FNAF theory videos. That's why he said that breakfast being the most important meal of the day is just a theory. And if you saw this in the theater, you probably saw some or heard some people react to it. I didn't get it. My daughter had to explain it to me. Now hold on. Let me name the animatronics for you. Freddy, Chica, Bonnie, and Foxy. Vanessa is a character in the game. Vanessa A, to be precise. But she's not a cop, she's a security guard and former game beta tester. To make a long story short, her character, which is believed to be the player in FNAF Help Wanted, gets mind-controlled or brainwashed, maybe it's Stockholm Syndrome, by a digital version of William Afton, now called Glitch Trap. And she does his evil bidding in the next game, FNAF Security Breach. Jump scare from Foxy here with game jump scare sound. Here is a fun homage. The babysitter's death appears to be referencing what in the game is referred to as the Bite of 83 and or the Bite of 87. That would be in 1983 and 1987, where there were accidents with the animatronics, and in 1983 a small boy was killed, and in 1987 a security guard's frontal lobe was damaged. This fun scene right here with everyone playing with each other, as far as I can tell, this is just pure insanity. In FNAF Security Breach, Freddy helps the player try to get away, but that's all I've got for him as far as being friendly. In FNAF 2, they do mention that the animatronics only harm adults. Is this animatronic in the game? Sort of. She appears in a minigame in FNAF Security Breach, but she's not one of the traditional animatronics that kill the player. In one of the books, she's called Ella. You can just forget about her. Do the animatronics ever leave and wander around town in the game? Yes. In FNAF Pizza Simulator, they somehow get themselves to the pizzeria from somewhere else. The player finds them outside. And also in Sister Location, one of the endings has the animatronic showing up at the player's house. As far as I've seen, they don't take taxis though. In the game, the lore says that William Afton hid the bodies of the kids he murdered in the animatronics at some point in the timeline, as Vanessa's character explains. Afton figures out that the kids' souls, or remnants, as it's called in the game, stay in the animatronic, and then they can move around in the suit on their own. Each animatronic is being controlled by one of the dead children, and it's kind of easy to figure out which one is which. This kid has bunny ears, and this kid has a hook he used to attack Mike. These last three I was a little confused the first time, because that kid is wearing a hat like Freddy. Then the girl is Chica, I guess 'cause she's a girl. But does that mean the remaining kid was the cupcake? That didn't seem right because he seems to be the leader. But then the second time I watched the movie, I realized there are two different Freddy animatronics. Freddy Fazbear and Golden Freddy. So the leader boy is the one that goes to Abby's house and he's in the Golden Freddy suit. And that leaves the other Freddy for the kid back there in the hat, and Chica controls Cupcake. Vanessa says electricity is the key, and as I mentioned, that is a running theme in the game. In some form or other, electricity is a very big deal. Then Springtrap comes out. That's this guy. First time I watched the movie, I was like, oh, the music is swelling. I guess this is the final boss. And he's not affected by the taser. If you had been paying attention to the opening credits, which I wasn't, or to the drawings of the kids, which I wasn't really thinking about, then you would have realized that this yellow bunny animatronic is the bad guy. As you see in a few seconds, this is William Afton, aka Steve Raglan, also known as Springtrap when he's wearing this suit. Vanessa explains the differences in the animatronics and the suits in an earlier scene, but here's a recap. Some of the animatronics are like the standard ones you would find in Chuck E. Cheese. They have a metal skeleton, and then the plush is put around that. But a spring-lock suit was made so that people could wear it and interact with the kids, and then it could spring back into a regular animatronic shape so it could perform on its own on stage without the person inside of it. But those suits were very unstable, and even a drop of water might make them lock into place with a person still inside of it. That person is of course now dead. So Afton's spring-lock suit malfunctions and it squishes him until he is presumably dead. That's also in the games, specifically a minigame from FNAF 3. You can see the little dead children's souls there at the bottom watching him bleed to death. When Afton says, "I always come back," it might not make sense because what do you mean you always come back? When did you leave? When did you die and come back? It's a line in the game because Afton does presumably die and come back later. So as far as the line being in the movie, you can interpret that as you will. The first time I watched it, I was kind of like, oh, so like he disappeared, changed his name, and then he came back. And that's the end of the movie, yay! And now you can end the video and walk away. Seriously, run before you turn into me. Are you still here? Okay. What happened to Garrett? You know, Mike's younger brother that Afton admitted he killed, but is not one of the 5 ghost children? The one that Mike almost gave up his sister for? So quick theory, even though I try really hard not to theorize FNAF at all. In the games, Freddy, or I should say Golden Freddy, is, by fan lore, possibly inhabited by 2 ghosts. So maybe Garrett was actually in the dream, like that was his actual spirit in the dream that Mike had. And Golden Freddy is being inhabited by both Garrett and the leader of the dead children. I have other theories, but maybe they will all be answered in part 2. I wanted to explain the Afton family tree from the lore that I've gathered from watching YouTube videos, but I couldn't because while there are popular theories, there are still things under dispute. William Afton had at least 2 children, Mike and Elizabeth. Presumably, he had at least 1 or 2 more. There are a lot of theories about Mrs. Afton, but nothing I can tell you with any certainty. The Bite of 83 might or might not have had 1 or 2 of Afton's children present. Not Elizabeth, though. William's daughter Elizabeth was killed by an animatronic called Circus Baby that William designed specifically to kill children. But he had always tried to keep Elizabeth away from Circus Baby. Unfortunately, she snuck in to see it and got killed. By FNAF lore, Mike started working secretly at FNAF locations to try and stop his father, and then got himself killed and zombified. Speaking of Mike, for more information about FNAF and theories, and there is a lot, please visit the experts. For all the FNAF movie Easter eggs, which I know there are more, but I want it to be brief, please visit those videos. If any FNAF fans are watching this and wondering why I didn't go into more detail, this right here is why. 2 FNAF fan wikis can't agree on one basic point. How many children does William Afton have? I don't want to make a video with claims that will be retconned next week. I have already assumed too much when I made this video. I know there are huge loose ends in this movie, like, what the hell did Mike tell the cops and the doctors about how he found Vanessa stabbed? What happened to the aunt? Because if she's dead, then Mike has to explain a dead aunt and an almost dead cop. Hey, aren't the bodies of those kids still inside the suits? But all that has nothing to do with this video. Maybe fans of FNAF want to argue that these loose ends are just the way Scott, the creator, rolls. If that's the case, then I'm positive we'll all learn more when Five Nights at Freddy, the movie, Part 2 comes out. Or when someone cracks the DRM on the video and in a few weeks finds a hidden minigame where we find out that Abby is short for Elizabeth, Bonnie blew up to stop a Luke and Leia moment between Mike and Vanessa, and the aunt was actually Mrs. Afton all along. I'm not crazy. She's wearing purple. Thanks for watching. Feel free to tell me how wrong I am below in the comments.